Do you struggle getting the golf ball in the air? Well, then this is the video for you. Join us and find out which of these 2025 drivers is going to help you with your vertically challenged drives. We've picked 6 drivers that are going to be current for 2025 that we believe are designed to give you high flight. We've done a 75-mile-an-hour test, and I'll explain it really quickly so that you don't get bored. Each club's been tested from a center shot at 75 miles an hour, zero path, zero face, zero angle of attack, all using the same high flight 40-gram golf shaft, and we're basically putting them head to head to see which one gives us the highest peak flight. This is obviously a different area. We've tested the low spin drivers at 115 miles an hour. We've tested draw bias drivers at 95. So this is for your moderate speed players that need to get that ball airborne. And hang in there for the end of the video, as we've got one more test to do live on camera that's going to show 95-mile-an-hour results. Let's run through the drivers that we tested and kick this thing off. We kept the Ping G430 10K. This driver is going to continue through this year alongside the G440 line, as it is their only 10K option that's still designed for max forgiveness, potentially high flight. Well, let's find out. Ping's brand new G440 Max. This is an awesome version. Can't wait to see the results for this. We've got the GT1, Titleist's lighter weight version, but promises high flight and high spin. Cobra's Max K driver. This is another 10K option we think is a real standout in the crowd. And then Callaway's Elite Max Fast. Now, caveat here, lighter weight driver head. It might not have the CG as far back as some of these other ones. Will that hurt it in the test? The same story for TaylorMade's QI35 Max Light. Replacing a rear weight with a lighter weight almost gives it a disadvantage in this test. So things to note here are, at the lower club head speed, both the Callaway and the TaylorMade are going to provide potentially some club head speed gains outside of just the ball flight you're looking for. So don't rule these out if they do get a disadvantage in this test. If you've watched our low spin test at 115 miles an hour and our draw bias test at 95, well, this is for you at the slower speed, and we're going to do it a little differently. If you're not at that 75 mile an hour speed, don't worry. We're going to take the top 3 drivers from this test and do it live on camera at 95 mile an hour to make sure we try and cover all the bases. Let's jump in and find out who was the winner of the 75 mile an hour high flight test for 2025 in these 6 drivers. We had to pick a metric that was going to show up the highest flight driver, so we picked peak height in yards. It's the furthest right column it's showing you. You can see that the winner of the high flight for 2025 was the Ping G440 Max at 14.8 yards high. A close second was Cobra's Adapt Max K, 14.3 yards high. And then the GT1 at 14.2. It's worth noting that the 430 10K, the Elite, weren't far behind. Things to note here, the launch changed 1.7 degrees from top to bottom on this list. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but 1.7 degrees is what you'll see in flight. If you hit a golf ball and launch it at 11.4 and one at 13.1, you'll notice that with your eye. So it's good to know. Obviously, starting it higher gives you a better chance of keeping it higher. Keeping it higher is to do with RPMs. The most interesting thing to note here, regardless of CG depth, all at the same loft, these drivers spun from top to bottom with 110 RPM difference. Basically, all these drivers spin the same. There's other things to look at here. Lie angle. The more upright lie angle generally is going to promote more draw bias, flatter, more fade. The tilt on the golf ball actually shows the net result of this in the test. If you saw a minus number, you're looking at draw tilt. If you see a positive number, you're looking at fade tilt. The nearer 0, the more neutral straight flight you're going to have. And there's going to be people out there watching this video that need high flight and draw and high flight and fade. So take a look at those numbers. Make sure that you're paying attention to them when you're picking the driver to test, hopefully in your Fitthing at Coolclubs or a worldwide golf retail location. We had a peak height difference of 2.9 yards from top to bottom. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're looking at this ball carrying around the 160 yard mark is a lot to see in the air. So we did have a couple of standout winners here, and that's why they've qualified for the 95 mile an hour test. We're going to start with the number 1, the G440 Max. We've got Glenn in the background here, robot testing. Keep the love coming in for the comments, because without Glenn, this doesn't happen. Okay, we're going to kick it off and see how the G440 does under 95 miles an hour of pressure. Glenn, let's give it a go. While you're loading it up, let's just take a look. Again, I love that they've kept the consistency for the G440 line this year. This carbon crown looks good to me. The little split between the turbulators and the carbon is interesting, but I feel like it's techie and it gives you confidence over it that it's going to move through the air quick. It just looks like a fast driver. So we saw on the bigger test that the Ping had a tilt axis of 4.8, which means it has a little fade bias. This one ended up pretty much dead on the target line, but it did look like it had a bit of spin axis to the right, 2 degrees. Okay, we've got a launch angle of 14 degrees. We've got spin at 3150 and a peak height of 29 yards. That gives us our start point. Now, second place was the Cobra Max K. Let's get it in the robot, put it head to head. Just like the Ping, we've got this big slug far down and back in the driver head, so should have a good chance of launching and staying up in the air. Glenn, let's give it 95 miles an hour, see what it does. So we saw with the Ping driver that it was a hair fade biased. In the larger test, only at 75 miles an hour, the Cobra was neutral biased to almost a tiny bit draw, but not enough to talk about. And that's what we just saw in that 95 mile an hour test. Tucked down the left side, but barely at all. Okay, so the Cobra launched at 14.2 degrees, a tiny, tiny bit higher than the Ping. Not enough to talk about. Spin 32.49, a tiny bit higher, not really enough to talk about. But the peak height hit 32 yards, so it actually is slightly in the lead in the 95 mile an hour test. Number 2 is jump number 1 in this small test. Last but certainly not least, we're going to hit the GT1 at 95 miles an hour. Glenn, let's do it. Okay, time for the 95 mile an hour test for the GT1. The only driver to have a gloss finish on the top. It's pretty simple, which I do like. We've got the weight far back and low. We know that this one comes with a lightweight option and a heavyweight option. This is in its standard lightweight option. We've turned the robot down a little bit to make sure it stays at 95 mile an hour, so it is a fair test. Glenn, let's hit it and see what we get, mate. Here we go. GT1 on the 75 mile an hour test was minimal draw biased, if not neutral. We saw there pretty neutral, if not tick the other side of the line towards the fade. Spin axis plus 1.4, so pretty well neutral. Okay, 14.7, highest launching out of the 3 GT1. Total spin 34.39, pretty close. And peak height exactly the same as the Cobra. And the distance differences come with the ball speed. Now, it's worth noting that we hit kind of 1 shot per club. The Cobra test, the head moved half a mile an hour faster, which doesn't equate to that ball speed change. So it does look like the Cobra might be hitting the ball a little faster, but that's not what we're here to find out. We're here to find out which one launched the highest, spun the highest, and ultimately had the highest peak flight. Going back to the table, we see there that the results are actually reversed from the 75 miles an hour test. In first place, Titleist GT1, 14.7 launched, 34.39 RPMs with a peak height of 32 yards. In second place, Cobra's Adapt Max K, 14.2 launch, 32.49 spin, and a peak height exactly the same as the GT at 32 yards. We'll call it a tie. And Ping in third place at 95 miles an hour, 14 degrees of launch, 3150 RPM, and 29 yards in peak height. Bearing in mind, these were the top 3 drivers from the 75 miles an hour test, so none of these are going to be bad for your game. If you are vertically challenged with your ball flight height with your driver, head to a Coolclubs, head to a worldwide golf retail location, put any of these drivers to the test, including the first 3. They're all going to help you play better golf.